it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster.
Hello and welcome into the Bill Austin Radio Studios. I'm your host, Gabby Ducharme, here with my co-host, Nicole Pinter. We are The Future is Female. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. Nicole, how's your day going so far?
My mic's all the way over here. It's been good. Yeah, we're chilling. I'm sad and mad, but we'll get to that.
Oh yeah, we are sad, we are mad, we are part sad because our fall break is over. We were gone last week, which was also kind of upsetting, so it's good to be back this week, y'all.
Oh, yeah, I kind of forgot we were gone last week, to be honest.
Oh, I know. Fall break feels like it was about a decade ago already.
Yeah, it lasted like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it lasted about 5 seconds. In the world of sports, though, much happened since our last time here. We're going to be talking World Series baseball. We're going to be talking some WNBA. I don't know what happened to Arizona State this weekend, but we'll talk about that.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. We got some college football, and of course, NBA games start tomorrow along with the World Series. So, y'all, it's a very, very good time to be a sports fan. Very exciting time. And then, of course, we'll round stuff out with our hot takes of the week. But just to start off with, we're going to go across the country to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has had very good fortune the last few years in the world of sports. Now, granted, you're probably thinking their two most popular sports, football and men's basketball, aren't the best. Well, I'm here to tell you that is not the only thing that defines that city. They just won the WNBA championship, the Washington Mystics, led by Elena Deladon. The Nationals just punched their ticket to the World Series. The Capitals won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. And, well, to sum it up, DC knows what the heck is up. Just going back, though, WNBA. Washington Mystics win the WNBA championship. Nicole, what were your thoughts on WNBA and just Washington, D.C. as a whole?
I mean, D.C. as a whole has been incredibly impressive, and I don't think that's, well, aside from one thing, but that's okay. We don't have to talk about that. I mean, the Nationals really, to me, is, what a story. I mean, they were 19-31 in May. Losing record, bullpen was complete trash, which kind of still is. They're using, like, their starting pitchers as relievers, but it's worked really well for them. Everything's worked out fine. This, according to the Oregonian, the last time the World Series came to the nation's capital was 1933, when the Washington Senators lost to the New York Giants in 5 games. The lone baseball championship for the city was in 1924, when the Senators defeated the Giants. So it's been a long time coming for D.C. They ended the season on an 8-game win streak to get into the wild card to face the Milwaukee Brewers, which Juan Soto, we all saw how that ended. And really, it's just been, they beat the Dodgers, they beat the Brewers, they beat the Cardinals. 3 really, really good teams this season that were World Series favorites.
They didn't just beat the Cardinals; they destroyed the Cardinals.
Oh, they swept them. It wasn't even close. And then Dodgers, playoff Kershaw back at it again. And
in classic form, as he has been the last 3 seasons.
A tradition like no other, if you will.
Oh, yes. Long-standing.
As a Cubs fan, it pains me a little bit because I felt like Cubs were a very similar team to the Nats. Good hitting, not a great bullpen. But you know what? The Nationals, they beat all 3 teams that I absolutely despise. Like, there's no team in the MLB that I hate more than them. So I'm happy for them. Go Nationals. I hope, Nationals-Astros, I don't think anyone can be mad about who wins this, except Yankees fans. So we'll get to that in a second.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, honestly, going back to, like, teams just in general who you want to root for their story. I feel like that's what we're rooting for right now. I'm rooting for the story of the Nats. I want them to win the World Series because they've never won before. They haven't won in almost 100 years is essentially what we're looking at. Because to give you guys perspective, the only person I know who was alive in 1924 was my great aunt. She was 4 years old at the time. Yeah, she's going to be 100 in like a few months. We're going into the 20s of 2020 now. We're going into a new decade, so this is a long time ago. But you talk about just teams in general that really haven't won much. The WNBA, Washington Mystics. Wow. You want to talk about great basketball. The Mystics were a team that kind of took a gamble about 2 years ago and picked up Elena Delle Donne. Delle Donne forced her way out of Chicago because she just wasn't happy. Delle Donne has always been very, very open about just how she deals with her life. Like she was depressed for a little while when she went. She started out at UConn when she was 18 years old, and then 48 hours into being at UConn, she went home. She just disappeared in the middle of the night. She was not happy. She was the best player in the country back in 2008, went home to play at University of Delaware, actually stopped playing basketball for like about a year and a half, played volleyball at University of Delaware, and then picked up a basketball again and started dominating the NCAA. But Delle Donne and the Delle Donne and the Mystics, just as a whole, this is a team that really has kind of spun the WNBA to be like this monster that it is. It's honestly, it's remarkable because ratings have gone up. You know, fan interest has gone up. The quality of play has risen immensely. And by the way, Elena Delle Donne was playing in this WNBA finals. The Mystics won in 5 games over the Connecticut Sun. She was playing with 2 herniated discs in her back. I don't know if you guys know like where that is, but basically a disc is like this, like it's supposed to provide like support and padding on the bottom of your spine to make sure that like I think it's basically to make sure that your bones are not literally rubbing up against one another. 2 of her cushions were broken. So she was playing through a lot of pain. She was playing through a lot, but her legacy goes down as like this teammate and this human who really just will do anything for her teammates. She'll do anything for her family. She has a younger sister named Lizzie who has cerebral palsy and is blind and deaf and really doesn't know Elena Delle Donne, the basketball player. She just knows Elena Delle Donne, her sister. That's about all she knows. Like, and she has such a close relationship with her sister. Like, they're both incredibly close. They're each other's best friends, and you want to talk about just bouncing back from this. There's this quote from ESPNW. It says, "From mononucleosis in high school to Lyme disease in college at Delaware to back injuries, knee injuries, and a broken nose in the WNBA, Delle Donne hasn't just persevered. She has played at a consistently great level." About sums it up right there. That was what this WNBA Finals was as a whole. Consistently great basketball.
Yeah, and awesome end to another great WNBA series. And speaking of DC, 2 years ago, the Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cup. So, Capitals amazing. The Nationals, incredible comeback story. This is hard. The Mystics, just amazing run. The Redskins. Anyway.
The Redskins.
Ooh, well, at least they beat the Dolphins, right? Anyway.
The Dolphins have had how many starting quarterbacks in the last 5 years?
I don't even want to know. They keep going back and forth between 2 right now. So, in Josh Rosen and Ryan Fitzpatrick. So,
oh, great. They got the Cardinals leftovers, and we all know how good the Arizona Cardinals are this season.
Hey, don't be sleeping on them. They're 3-3-1.
Oh, that's true. True.
I mean, they beat the Giants, but 3 straight wins for Cliff Kingsbury. We are not talking NFL, however.
Right.
We're moving on to the World Series. Nationals-Astros, likely matchup for tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Garrett Cole versus Scherzer is most likely the matchup. Garrett Cole seems like a lock. Scherzer is kind of what everyone's thinking it's going to be. Great matchup. Great pitching matchups all throughout. I mean,
oh, yeah.
And how about how the Astros even got here? Jose Altuve walk off in the bottom of the 9th after, in the top of the 9th, DJ LeMahieu hit a 2-run homer to tie it up for the Yankees. And it looked like we were going to extras. Actually, shout out to Hunter Hipple because he said this as we were watching. If Jose Altuve gets up to bat, they're winning this game. Whether it's the bottom of the 9th or bottom of the 10th, that's what's going to happen. And he homers a 2-run homer into the back wall of the stadium there because it's an indoor stadium. And there will be no Yankees in the World Series. I think that's something everyone in America can cheer about. I am thrilled. The Yankees will not have a World Series this decade. They've had a World Series every decade, since their inception. Most of them were before the 1960s, might I say, but every decade, not one this decade. So I think we can all rejoice tonight.
Oh, we can.
With no Yankees, but
Everybody outside the city of New York is rejoicing right now.
oh yeah, again, a great pitching matchup. I mean, Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, Scherzer, Strasburg. And those are just two of the guys. Like this pitching matchup, hitting matchup, like this is just so interesting.
I remember when I was a kid, I remember watching Steven Strasburg like play and pitch and stuff like that. I remember there was a while where he was having really bad elbow problems back in like 2011.
Oh yeah, I think he had Tommy John.
Yeah, he had a couple of Tommy John surgeries done back in like 2000, right around 2011 probably. He was on a pitching restriction at the time, and a lot of people thought that was his career. Well, here he is 8 years later in 2019 getting ready to play in World Series. What a comeback story that is, too. I mean, God, D.C., I'm just renaming them the comeback kids. Like, that's what they are now, honestly.
Well, the Nationals became the fourth team to reach the World Series after being 12 games under 500, and now they have a chance to win it all against the Astros. Game 1 in Houston tomorrow at 5.
Whew. It's an exciting time for sports tomorrow, people.
Oh, yeah. Really exciting.
Yeah.
NBA, which we'll get to later. I know Hawks play the Knights. I'm excited for that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and, I mean, honestly, you talk about, this World Series matchup. What's just real quick, who do you pick to win this series?
Ooh. As much as I want to root for the Nationals, I think the Astros are just too good. I think fighting their way back against the Yankees all season and just all season in general, I'm going to take the Astros. I'm going to take the Astros in 7. I think this goes to a game 7. I think it still ends in Houston. What about you?
Honestly, I don't know if my heart is kind of pulling at D.C. a little bit because shout out to my older sister. She lives in Washington, D.C. now. I'm going to have to go with the Nats. Just the comeback story. The fact you come back from, you're the fourth team ever to come back and make the postseason after being, 12 games out, you said? From the postseason?
Well, 12 games under 500.
12 games under 500. So you take a stat like that, you take a team like that. I think this is the year of the DC sports. I'm going to go Nats in 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, you transition. We got a diamond over here, and we've got some NCAA football action over there. Of course, huge Pac-12 matchups, huge, notable games, and we're going to talk about that right after we come back from break. This is The Future is Female on Blaze Radio. Welcome back into The Future is Female. Gotta love the Star Wars rejoiner right there. There it is.
Final Star Wars trailer tonight, at least for the next 5 years until Disney decides to make another one. But, yeah.
Oh, you gotta plug that in then.
During Monday Night Football, yeah.
Monday Night Football.
I am scared. I am ready. I'm going to cry. It's okay. We'll be fine.
Did you grow up a Star Wars fan?
Oh, yeah. Lego Star Wars was my first introduction to all of Star Wars. Played it with my brother growing up, and then I've just been hooked ever since. I've loved it ever since. Today also would have been Carrie Fisher's birthday. Today, she passed away 2 years ago, so they're releasing it sort of in honor of her first birthday. This movie has been suspected to be really about Carrie Fisher, about Leia, about General Leia. So that's your quick movie update.
Oh yeah. Hey, we don't just talk sports here on The Future is Female. We talk all things pop culture, right?
We got to get a little Star Wars in there, but not all the time.
Well, allow me to say Star Wars is going to be shining bright tonight, but on Saturday night, Arizona State football was not shining very bright. They lost in a huge Pac-12 matchup in prime time on the Pac-12 network against Utah, 21-3. They got smacked in the face. Jaden Daniels, the star quarterback, threw 4 for 18, only 25 yards, and threw an interception. So you notice they didn't score a touchdown. Obviously, Daniels didn't score a touchdown. So the firing of Rob Likens as well.
No.
It says fire Rob Likens.
That's me saying to fire Rob Likens
you
into
need
the
to-
sun. This
You
offense,
need to fire him.
Yes, because this offense has struggled all season long. Will they put up points? Will they not? And
Okay,
to
that's
Jaden
why I
Daniels,
was confused, because I was like, we would have heard if the offensive coordinator had been fired.
right. I'm saying I just wanted to remind myself to say that on air, to fire Rob Likens into the sun. Because, I'm sorry, this offense is pitiful. It was a pitiful performance. I mean, you said Jaden Daniels, 4 of 18, and only 25 yards passing. How many total yards did they get? Let's find out. I don't think it was a lot.
No, it couldn't have been many. Well,
136.
136 the entire game?
Two turnovers, 8 first downs, and only 24 minutes and 42 seconds of possession. Granted, Utah had 4 turnovers, but ASU could not do anything with that, losing 21-3. They were down 14-0 at halftime, made it 14-3 at the end of the third. I don't know what to say. This was a huge top 25 matchup for ASU, for the Pac-12 South, and they blew it. I mean, for ASU to want to be in the Pac-12 South, in the Pac-12 championship, seems a little grim now.
Yep.
And they go to UCLA next week in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, and
At least the weather will be in their favor there.
at least it will be nice.
Somewhat.
But this game actually broke a streak, the longest in the FBS up until Saturday, of 125 games scoring double-digit points. That ended. I didn't even know that's a streak they had. They moved back to number 24 in the AP poll. Still somehow in the AP poll. They were 17 going into the weekend. I mean, it was rainy, so it's kind of hard to say, would it have been better if it was sunny? I don't know. It was a mid-afternoon, almost evening game in Salt Lake City. Utah's a good team, even though they haven't looked like it all season. But ASU could have played much better than that.
I was about to say, I don't think you can really use like weather or whatever like as the excuse for them, because honestly, and I don't even think you're not using it as an excuse. I think it was definitely a factor.
It's more of a factor. I think we can call it an excuse in the San Francisco-Washington game yesterday. I think
that's true.
I think we can use it there, but not here, because it was cloudy, it was stormy, it was a light rain, it was more of a mist than anything else. But ASU 2-2 in their conference right now. It's one of those losses being to Colorado. So one loss that really shouldn't be a loss to a Colorado team that dropped to Oregon State.
Yeah. Well,
Oregon
honestly,
State, easily the worst team in the Pac-12.
Honestly, they're a young team. Like, to spin it kind of positively, they are a young team. They've got a young quarterback. They've got, Herm Edwards isn't young, but like a newer head coach. He's only in a second season. Yeah, a new era of football. So maybe this is them just kind of having their mid-season, their mid-season struggles. They're still in the top 25. I think it's because Utah is just like that much better than them, like is what people are kind of arguing. They're still in the top 25, and this weekend I'm over the moon excited for this game. This game is going to be a fun one. For me personally, like, this is a game I've been waiting for all season. This is probably going to be my favorite game of the season. ASU versus UCLA at the Rose Bowl. I grew up going to the Rose Bowl, going to like UCLA football games and stuff. So if I hadn't ended up at Sun Devil, I may have ended up going to UCLA at some point in my life, and I may still for like grad school. But you want to talk about two, like, just blue blood Pac-12 schools going up against one another at probably one of the nation's most famous stadiums. I mean, everybody...
It's the Rose Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl's up there, like, in terms of fame with, like, the Big House at Michigan and Ohio State Stadium and, Alabama Stadium and LSU Stadium. Like, all of these really, really big places where college football history has been made. I'm praying that there's even more history made Saturday night when Arizona State goes up against UCLA. Honestly, the only positive I can take away from this game is that it's over, and now we're one day closer to ASU versus UCLA.
I gotta be honest. I'm not trying to be a downer on ASU. This was a really down weekend for me sports-wise, so maybe that's why. But ASU is a -4 favorite going into this. Actually, Matchup Predictor for ESPN has UCLA at a 51.1% favorability in this game, which is kind of interesting. I think UCLA could catch off we just lost to Utah. It was a really worst performance of the season, not even close. I think UCLA has a really good chance in this game. I think they win it. I want ASU to prove me wrong. I will be gladly proven wrong if ASU absolutely destroys them. Believe me. But I think UCLA wins this game.
Honestly, I mean, I may have to be in agreement with you because UCLA, they have had just a terrible season. You need to fire Chip Kelly into the sun is what you need to do if you're UCLA. I never, ever was on board with them hiring him in the first place. I didn't think they should have fired Jim Mora. I thought Mora brought elite quarterbacks to that school. He brought Josh Rosen.
He brought Josh Rosen?
Yeah.
Elite quarterback Josh Rosen?
He was good while he was at UCLA. Like, he was good in college.
Doesn't like football. Go on.
Well, anyways, I watched Josh Rosen play when he was at UCLA and also Brett Hundley. Two guys who were
not making it in the NFL right now.
Okay, they're not making it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, they're not making it in the NFL right now, but they had solid college careers. And so I don't think they ever should have let go of Jim Mora. I thought he was a really solid coach, and especially considering where UCLA kind of is, they have never been a football school. At least not in my lifetime, they haven't, which makes no sense. They are literally located like 20 miles away from USC. USC has been dominant for like decades. But anyways, honestly, I think UCLA can easily catch them off guard because they got stomped hard. They're going into a game. I think UCLA's won like 2 games all season. So easily UCLA could win this game. This weekend as well at UCLA is Parents' Weekend. So it's kind of a fun environment. It's going to be more crowded at the stadium. You know, ASU is going to have a lot of fans there who are expecting to come in and really see a big victory by the Sun Devils. But if there's one thing I've learned about UCLA, you don't count them out. I learned the hard way counting UCLA out. So I'm not going to do that again. So
Can you tell me what learning the hard way was?
Learning the hard way.
I genuinely can't think of anything.
Well, no, learning the hard way was their women's basketball team last season.
Oh, okay. I thought we're talking football.
Oh,
we're talking football. We're not talking UCLA. We're talking UCLA football.
Well, if you're talking to UCLA in general, that was when I learned. But if you're talking UCLA football, back in like 2005, my family went to a UCLA versus Stanford game when we were living like in like Northern California. I was like 4 or 5 at the time. And we went to the game. Stanford was leading by like 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And my dad sat in the bleachers and just said, let's just stay for one more play. At the time, we were 3 young kids. My mom just wanted to go home. My dad was not in the mood to go home. So we stayed one more play. That one more play turned into a touchdown. And then one more play turned into 5 more minutes. And 5 more minutes turned into 10 more minutes. And 10 more minutes turned into 3 more touchdowns, where UCLA football came back and beat the Cardinal. It was a crazy, crazy game. To be 100% honest, I don't really remember the game. But I do remember the stories that like my dad would tell and my mom would tell from that day. So that is mostly where I don't count UCLA out,
which is fair, and I think it will be a really good game, and that again in Pasadena, 4:30, another game on the Pac-12 network for the Sun Devils. Oh my God, why do we keep getting put on the Pac-12 network? I'm sorry.
God forbid we actually get picked up by ESPN one time.
I know we need a Thursday game to do that, but ASU follows up UCLA coming home to USC, so overlooking is a possibility here for a surprisingly unranked, surprisingly good USC team. So with their second and third string quarterback. Other notable games within the Pac-12 was Oregon and Washington. Oregon came back to avoid the upset from formerly number 25 Washington. They are now out of the rankings, 35-31. They erased a 28-14 deficit in the third quarter. Early in the third, Washington went up 28-14, and Herbert ended up throwing for 4 touchdowns in that win. Oregon remains the Pac-12's best chance of getting into the college football playoff, but that's even if there is one, which, to be honest, no, there is not. I think we can all stop that. I think we need to keep Oregon there, but here's the only reason Oregon could, it's acceptable if the Pac-12 doesn't get in the college football playoff at this point. Listen, they're not. I understand. But if ASU beats Oregon and then Oregon's officially out, ASU has to take out Oregon, and I will be okay with Oregon officially being out. Because then it's like, yeah, we deserve to. The Pac-12 hates itself. And also ASU beat Oregon at home. That's pretty cool. So I think I'll take that. And if maybe Oregon's in the top 10 by then, maybe we can rush the field. Probably not, but that'd be cool. So Oregon remaining a one-loss team in the Pac-12.
Oregon is our only hope at this point.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Oregon is like the Pac-12's only hope in a conference,
a slim hope,
but in a conference that has Cal, Berkeley, Stanford, Washington, USC. Oregon is our only hope.
Yeah.
A conference that should probably have 6 schools competing to be in the top 25 at least. Do you remember in week 2 when there were 6 Pac-12 schools in the top 25 and we were like, and everyone, yes, the Pac-12 is back!
So excited. It was so cute when we still had most of those teams outside the top 15. Listen, I'm always here to drag the Pac-12. Okay, I'm always here for it because I'm sorry, we don't deserve to be in the college football playoff.
It was just cute because for 2 reasons. Number one, Pac-12 play hadn't started yet, so we hadn't started eating each other alive like we always do as a conference.
Like the Pac-12 is currently, yes.
Yes. And number 2, at that time, Oregon was 1-1 on the season. They had just lost to Auburn.
Right, and so pretty brutally too. But.
So they were not at all in the hunt for the college football playoff. Now they're one of the only teams from the Pac-12 still in the top 25. In the top 25 for the Pac-12, we've got Arizona State, Oregon, and
Utah.
So
and Oregon's still sitting outside the top 10.
Yeah, Oregon's 11, Utah's 12, and then Arizona State's 24.
So hanging on by a thread. So that's your Pac-12 roundup. Real quick from the Pac-12 too. USC destroyed U of A, if that makes us feel better about this weekend. Khalil Tate was actually taken out of the game, so I don't think we have to worry about U of A, so that's cool. Maybe we still will, I don't know. Maybe ASU still will. But moving on, some other notable games. Illinois upset Wisconsin 24-23 on a last-second 39-yard field goal in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. Incredible for a Wisconsin team that actually did struggle at home to Northwestern wearing those ugly uniforms. I'm sorry I said it. And incredible. So good for them. I don't know how to feel as a Michigan fan about it. I think I'm okay with it.
Illinois, that's your state that you live in though. Well,
yeah, it's not my school.
I know it's not your school, but sometimes the home state experience.
I have a lot of friends there, so I'm happy for them because a popular bar there called Cam's just closed too, so I'm praying for them. It's really, really popular. So yeah, I'm glad they got something to cheer about. Michigan, Penn State. Michigan dropped another one, 28-21. I will save you most of the rant for I was on Heat Check yesterday. Jack Johnson was out. I was on the Mays Minute. So I will save you most of that rant. However, I will say, in terms of Ronnie Bell, Ronnie Bell, number 8 for Michigan, wide receiver, dropped a potential game-winning touchdown pass from Shea Patterson at the goal line, which would have tied the game with about a minute to go. It sucks, but I can tell you no one is hurting more than he is. No one feels more guilty about losing than he does on that team. And I've already seen people go after him with death threats, with everything you can imagine, because Twitter can be an awful place sometimes. If you are one of them going after Ronnie Bell, please stop. He has been Michigan's leading receiver with 32 receiving yards. The next up is Nico Collins with 358. Ronnie Bell has easily been the best receiver. He's a great kid. He's young. He makes mistakes. Shea Patterson actually said, maybe I should have ran it in. If you watch the play, there's no way Shea Patterson would have ran it in. I understand you have to catch those passes, but he's been the best receiver all season. He's done an incredible job, and I hate to see what Twitter can be when, something happens to their favorite sports team. Ronnie Bell doesn't deserve this. If you're really a Michigan fan, then Ronnie Bell is Michigan's best receiver right now. I know this season is tough. I know this season is hard. Believe me, I'm more sad about this loss than anything because the Wisconsin loss took all the rage out of me. So now I'm just sad. Now I'm just going to be depressed the rest of the season. But Ronnie Bell is a great kid, great player, and easily one of Michigan's best at the moment. So if you're going after him, reconsider your life, reconsider your choices, and reconsider whether you're really a Michigan fan. Looking ahead, Shea Patterson actually played one of his better games of the season Saturday night. A brutal interception, but otherwise looked pretty good. I know Michigan was down 21-0 early, but he looked good. Charbonnet looked good. Really questionable play calling again, but with draw plays on 3rd and 5 to Haskins, not even to Charbonnet. So as far as what needs to happen, I don't know. Like I said, I'll save you most of the rant because I'm more sad than anything. We'll talk about Harbaugh's future later. Coming up for them, though, is home against Notre Dame under the lights Saturday night. They're currently favored by 3.5 against a Notre Dame team that I don't think is legit, but it's going to be tough, especially under the lights. This is where Michigan typically shines the brightest, though, when they're under the lights, when the game starts, at 8 Eastern or 7 Eastern, which I think 7:30 is when this one starts. I'm more numb to any pain now from Michigan. College basketball season starts soon. Juwan Howard picked up Isaiah Todd. I'm happy about that. So, go blue forever. I'll always love this team. I'll always believe in this team. And I am just numb right now.
You are numb.
I am numb to all of this. I am sad, but it's okay because I have a team that makes me way angrier right now anyway. So it's fine. I have that balance. I have a team that's going to do that for me anyway. We'll get to that later. But finishing up here with college football, recently, Gabby, I don't know if you saw this, New York Times study says that ASU versus U of A is the biggest sports rivalry overall. Number 1 overall. Typical matchups you'd assume, Red Sox Yankees are there.
Lakers Celtics are listed.
Celtics. Yeah, so
Michigan Ohio State, speaking of the Big Blue Nation, Michigan Ohio State's listed.
I think they were, okay, so here's your list for you. ASU U of A 1, Giants Dodgers 2, Falcons Saints 3, that one surprises me. Toronto Montreal from MLS 4, Flyers Penguins 5, Lakers Celtics 6. Gabby, what do you think of this?
I'm honestly kind of surprised by it because, growing up, I don't know, I didn't really pay attention to the ASU U of A football rivalry that much.
Unless you were, in the state of Arizona.
Yeah. And honestly, it makes me wonder, because Arizona's professional teams don't really have a lot of, rivals, whatsoever.
They hold on to this one really tight.
Yeah, they hang on to this one because the state as a whole doesn't have a lot of schools. There's only NAU, ASU, and U of A. Those are the 3 colleges in the state. And compared to, somewhere like California, there's a million schools in California. So there's also a lot going on in other states, I feel like. So you talk about just the rivalries in general. I find it super interesting that 3 out of these 5 biggest rivalries have teams from California. Or two out of the 5 biggest rivalries. 2 out of the 6 biggest rivalries. So 1/3 of the biggest rivalries, Giants, Dodgers, obviously California, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. NBA, Lakers, Los Angeles. I think it's kind of crazy how much pull the West Coast has in all of this because the Falcons Saints one is probably the one that catches me off guard the most, and the one that is the most shocking is the fact that Lakers Celtics is all the way down at number 6.
No, you want it higher, don't you? You want it at number 1. Yeah, you know you do.
No,
you
I want
Lakers
it at
homer,
number 2.
You
I want
Lakers
it at number 2.
Below ASU U of A?
Yeah, I want it at number 2.
So, okay, give me your top 3 real quick.
So my top 3, like, overall.
It's okay. I'm gonna be biased too. I understand.
Yeah. My top three overall, of course, is I got to go Arizona State, U of A, because ever since I've gotten to school here, it's just such a fun rivalry to cover, and it's a fun rivalry to kind of be a part of. And then number 2 is UCLA USC, like anything UCLA USC, and then number 3 is definitely Lakers Celtics. Those are like my big 3. Okay. What about you, Nicole? What are your top 3?
Homer. That's gonna be me. But I, I love it. You love it. But number 1, I think, how can you ignore Michigan Ohio State? It's literally called The Game. Like, you don't even need to say anything more. Oh, but Nicole, Ohio State's been winning the past 10 years. Yeah, do you know there was this thing called the 10-year war between Michigan and Ohio State, and Bo Schembechler won most of them? So, like, do you know that there was a time? Michigan still leads all time.
Was a time. That's the key, my friend. That's the key.
Michigan led this series before... 2000, they still lead the series, but they led the series by a large margin before 2006. In 2006, by the way, the end of that season, Michigan-Ohio State, that was the game of the century. Don't come at me with that Alabama-LSU trash talk. No, that game ended 9-6. Get out of here. This game ended, I don't want to remember the score, but like 42-38 or something. And yes, I still remember Sean Crable hitting Troy Smith out early. Yes, I still remember it all. But... I don't know how you can ignore that one. 2, I actually do like the Falcons Saints being put on this list, but I can't. I'm going to put the Bears Packers at 2.
I think the Bears Packers has got to go above Falcons Saints.
Easily, and that's kind of my point. I think it's easily got to be, right? This is a rivalry that dates all the way back to the beginning. The NFL opened up its 100th season back in September with this game in Soldier Field. So it wasn't a great game, but they did it. So I don't know how you can ignore that one. I mean, it's been hard hitting ever since. It's one of the hardest hitting rivalries in sports. Yes, I know Ravens-Steelers exist. I know. I think that's up there too. I think as of recently, Ravens-Steelers is the hardest hitting rivalry in sports, but Bears-Packers, man, it was back in the day when targeting wasn't a thing, and nor was CTE. But as for 3, I have a really tough time with this one because I think I want to say ASU U of A. I almost want to say ASU U of A because I genuinely can't think of anything else because I'm a genuine homer. But I don't want to go with Lakers Celtics either. If I had to go with something that was on this list before, I think I'd have to go with Lakers Celtics. I think the history of it and everything, the history more than anything. I think recently it hasn't, been much of a rivalry, but
at least not like the last decade.
But yeah, really the history of that. So I'm surprised that you do have the ASU U of A in your top 3 though, because like we were saying, I feel like unless you're out in the state of Arizona, where professional sports teams aren't really a thing here, I think it's a great rivalry. I mean, the territorial cup is cool, but it's maybe in my top 12. I don't know if it's in my top 3.
Well, I think the reason I put it there is just, it's because of like the stories that I've heard, like the fact that the cup itself, I think last year, the teams were like literally tied in like how many victories each had in like the last 150 some odd years that they've had the rivalry. And so once again, I feel like it's the history piece. And I also feel like these two schools, they haven't really competed for Pac-12 championships in the last few years. So it makes the rivalry game all the more valuable because it's like the biggest game of the season. Like, after the rivalry game, there's nothing else. Maybe they'll go to a weird bowl game in Las Vegas, or they'll play in the Beef O'Grady Bowl or something like that. But just as an entire entity, the Territorial Cup means everything to these two schools because it is everything to them. It is all that they have in terms of dominating the state, in terms of claiming State 48 for their own. And so I think it also just has a big stake as well in like recruitment of players and stuff, like trying to keep kids in Arizona, trying to recruit locally. It can be difficult. Like, the best players like Spencer Rattler. Rattler did not go to Pac-12 school. He did not go to a school in Arizona. He went to Oklahoma. He's backing up Jalen Hurts right now. A lot of people, I think, forget that. And so just in terms of like recruitment and bragging rights, ASU U of A, I think, is everything to these two schools, the Territorial Cup as a whole. That's why I have it in my top 3. And honestly, with that, we talked rivalries, lots of college football, lots of action thus far on our show and throughout the world of sports. We'll be right back with more here on The Future is Female. Welcome back in to The Future is Female. Gabby Ducharme here, as always, with Nicole Pinter and our third co-host, who's still currently not with us, Sarandon. Shout out to you,
Spain,
Sarandon.
you lucky.
Yeah. No other words. Just you're in Spain. You're really lucky. Shout out to you. We miss you. We can't wait to have you back next semester. So get all your travel bugs out now, because you're not allowed to miss another show after this.
You're not allowed to have jet lag either. Well, y'all have plenty of time, but that's not.
I was about to say she'll have like a month off.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. I didn't know when she got back.
Yeah, she gets back sometime in December.
All right, perfect.
But anyways, shout out to our little baseball and football guru over there in Spain. We are here, though, in the States, chilling out in Phoenix, Arizona on Blaze Radio. And there's a big thing happening tomorrow here and across the country on top of the World Series. And the fact that baseball and football are just still kind of in full swing. Baseball wrapping up, football still being what it is. NBA starts off tomorrow. Basketball season is officially here. Ready or not, here we come. Lots of stuff to cover in the NBA. First, the China scandal. Nicole, what were your initial thoughts when China kind of broke out with the Rockets and it was like the Rockets, the Lakers.
Daryl Morey
tweeted
out, very, very simple, just he supports freedom. He's free, free rights, what everyone should have, which is the situation in Hong Kong, which admittedly I'll say I don't know everything about. But what I do know is that they just don't have freedom, and that's a thing they should have. So Daryl Morey tweeted that out while the NBA was over in China, of course, the Lakers and the Nets for some preseason action. It's such a simple tweet. It's a simple concept. I don't think it goes too far into politics, and I'm not going to go too far into politics here. But, it brings up the question. Max Kellerman actually brought up this question on First Take. Should we even be doing business with China? Now, you'll probably say, well, yeah, because they make us money, which is why, we're kind of having these stepping stones around China. Everything we do with China is for money. That's why LeBron James has said what he said, which I think, to me, I know a lot of people had a problem with what LeBron James said, me included. I think sometimes, if you don't want to talk about it because the NBA, because this is an issue beyond, not even beyond your reach, but something that the NBA has told you, don't touch, don't talk about it. Listen, that's fine. Tell us that you don't know a lot about it and you can't talk about it, or say you can't talk about it right now. Like, that's fine. Saying that Daryl Morey was uneducated, misinformed, he's a MIT grad, but that's where my problems got. Saying, oh, that's political, I don't do that, when he is fairly political active. He's done a lot of great things for Akron, Ohio, and I'm not his hometown, and I'm not going to forget any of that, and this is not an attack on LeBron James at all. I'll do that in basketball when we're talking about basketball. This is an issue different. I won't attack him for. It's kind of blown over to this point. I know it's not over. I think. I really don't know. I really don't know. So, Gabby, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, China as a country is just a very, very complicated entity to deal with, because they are obviously a communist country. They've been a communist country for pretty long time now, for basically since the Soviet Union was at its peak, back in the 1950s and 1960s. And China as a whole has very, very strict rules when it comes to freedom of speech. And that is something that the United States has been, working against and with and tussling with, and there are many human rights violations that the country has committed, and there are many, many controversial ideals that get brought up far beyond the basketball court. This issue goes far beyond the basketball court, and I think I have to agree with you in that LeBron kind of shoved his foot in his mouth, and then rather than owning up to it, he just shoved his foot even further into his mouth.
Digging his own grave.
Yeah, he dug his own grave in that I think he just treaded into waters that he just doesn't really understand. The idea of democratic diplomacy and communistic diplomacy and just diplomacy in general, you're talking about stuff that people in the United Nations are struggling with. International ambassadors, who this is their main job. Do you really think that all of a sudden, as a basketball player who has really taken a stand on many, many big topics and has needed to share his voice, do you really think this was your place to chime in? Because it wasn't. And honestly, I don't think Daryl Morey was intending any of this, of course, when he sent that tweet out. But I think, as well, you have to be conscientious of what you're posting. Because what they're tweeting about and stuff, yeah, the NBA might have issues with, money and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, tweets like that, posts like that, it comes back to affect the civilians of the country in a deeper way that we here in the United States will not fully comprehend or understand. The Chinese people are known for slaughtering the Uyghur population. That's a Muslim minority population in the country. They slaughtered almost 1 million people within the last year, simply because the Muslim minority wanted to practice their faith openly and freely. And China came in guns a-blazing on all of them. The Chinese government slaughtered the population. They essentially committed a religious genocide. So this is an area that is very complex. We could dedicate an entire show to talking about it. Fact of the matter is, if you're an athlete and you aren't well versed in diplomatic ties and how to handle, essentially what's a powdered keg like a country like China, just don't say anything.
Well, and I do want to make one thing clear. Hong Kong is its own entity. These riots are happening in Hong Kong because they are not getting the freedom they feel they deserve. And, China has been, hush-hush about everything, especially with the NBA being over there. But I do want to ask you one quick question before we move on, Gabby. Who are you saying is, what you just said, who are you saying is sort of at fault, of thinking about when to do things, when to say things? Are you saying this is on Daryl Morey, or are you saying what LeBron James said? Who are you referring to?
I'm referring directly to both LeBron James and Daryl Morey, okay. And I'm also referring to the PR people who are behind both of them. The idea that you need to be well-versed in issues like this, because the simple fact of the matter is, when you're dealing with international entities like Hong Kong or China, international entities that even the United Nations is struggling to deal with, I think you as a professional sports organization and a professional sports conglomerate, you need to be more aware of that going in. And you need to be well versed in, this is what we can and can't say on social media. This is what we can and can't say as a nation and as a country, because it's going to start affecting people that are behind closed doors that we're never going to meet or see. So I think honestly, just the entire NBA conglomerate as a whole, that's really what I'm speaking to. And then in the trickle down effect, I'm also speaking to LeBron James and Daryl Morey to say, you need to be more aware of your surroundings and stuff. That's really the target of who I'm speaking to.
Okay. Well, so that is still occurring, of course. In other NBA news, Zion is out 6 to 8 weeks after knee surgery, after a torn meniscus. He's had knee problems basically since high school. Big blow to a very young New Orleans team. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Kind of a rough start for them, but Gabby, it's time. Let's make our NBA predictions in roughly 3 minutes or less. Gabby, why don't you lead us off?
To start off with, I got LeBron James as the MVP. Rookie of the year, I got RJ Barrett. Sixth man, Lou Williams. Most improved player, Jason Tatum of the Celtics. Defensive player of the year, Kawhi Leonard of the Clippers. Coach of the year, Doc Rivers. And then in the finals, for like the NBA finals, my picks are the Denver Nuggets coming out of the West and then the Milwaukee Bucks coming out of the East. I think the Bucks will eventually win it over the Nuggets. Nicole,
I just want to point out something that Gabby had a Lakers show before I made my MVP pick, and she was like, huh, yeah, and then she changed it to the Nuggets. I just want to point that out. I'm
going to give you credit. You made a good point. I forgot for a second that the Nuggets exist and that a lot
Most
of people
do.
The odds makers have the Nuggets winning the Western Conference in the regular season.
There you go.
So I don't think that I'm at fault by any means by changing my.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just giving you crap.
Oh yeah, you're totally just giving me crap. So
because you wrote Lakers show. Because you wrote it's strictly because of that. But anyway, so my MVP, I'm going with Jokic of the Denver Nuggets. I think Nuggets are going to have a great season, and I think he's going to be a huge part of that. Rookie of the year, give me Kobe White, baby. Let's go Bulls. Yeah, I do mean this in a way. I don't mean my last pick at all, but for the sake of time, I'm keeping it. It was the same pick I made on Traffic Jam, even though it's not going to be right in the slightest. Sixth man, I agree with you, is going to be Lou Williams of the Clippers. Most improved, I actually think it's going to be Lonzo Ball. And I think that's going to be in part with him being on a young team that not under LeBron James's wing. Yeah. Or, just not being on a team with LeBron James, I think is really going to help him. Sorry. Defensive player of the year, I have Giannis. I agree with you on coach of the year. I think it's going to be Doc Rivers because of this Clippers team. And then finals, Bulls-Clippers, Bulls in 6. Let's go. Woo!
Who exactly is guarding Kawhi Leonard,
Kobe
Paul
White.
George?
Oh, wait, no. Markkanen's guarding Kawhi Leonard. Paul George, probably Levine, maybe White.
You're gonna stick 6'4" Zach LaVine on 6'9" Paul George?
That's like 5 inches. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Due to the sake of time, I'm keeping it, and we're going with it.
Heck yeah! So we got Bulls in 6 over there. I'm gonna take the Bucks in 6 in a more reasonable and well thought out NBA Finals matchup. But
I feel attacked.
But the next 9 months will only tell whether or not these predictions actually hold true. And, of course, my favorite segment of the show, Hot Takes of the Week. Nicole, we're going to start with you. What is your hot take of the week?
My hot take is the team I am mad about, the Chicago Bears. So Chicago Bears lost 36-25 to the New Orleans Saints at home Sunday evening. So who is more to blame, Matt Nagy or Trubisky? I understand Trubisky has not played well in the slightest this season, especially last night. And I thought, Chase Daniels didn't play all that great last weekend. But Trubisky, I saw this tweet. I think it was Rich Eisen. Trubisky has to lead the league in should have made those throws. Like he missing wide receivers deep. He was 34 or 54. To me, because he threw the ball 54 times, because of the play calling I saw, I'm putting the blame on Matt Nagy more than anybody. He's getting too cute. Why are we putting Cordell Patterson in the backfield when we have three pretty good running backs already? We drafted David Montgomery in the second round, for gosh sakes. I think for this team, and Matt Nagy said, I know we have to run the ball more. I'm not an idiot. Are you sure about that? Because our leading rusher was Tariq Cohen, 3 rushes for 10 yards. So it infuriates me that this team looked like a playoff team. We're putting the defense on ice, and Khalil Mack is double teamed. You don't hear him. So, Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football, fellow Chicago Bear fan, said, well, what is this team? Are they a passing team? Well, no, not really, but Trubisky throws the ball 54 times. Oh, so they're a running team. Well, no, because they don't really run the ball. Defensive team? No, they just gave up 36 points to the New Orleans Saints and a good offense in the New Orleans Saints. But this was a winnable game. To me, Matt Nagy's getting too cute for his own good. Trust Trubisky down the field. Trust your quarterback. Give the ball to David Montgomery. And thank God for Allen Robinson because he's just doing his thing out here. Gabby, what is your hot take?
Woo! Hot take of the week, Gabby Ducharme right here. So there's this really popular show in Los Angeles called The Woody Show. It comes on every single morning for like 3 or 4 hours, really, really early in the morning. My older sister, Olivia, listens to it. She was actually the one who tipped me off to this. They made a comment essentially saying, quote, who cares about the WNBA? They mentioned it in passing very briefly on their show. Now, granted, their show is not a sports show, but at the same time, they're like an entertainment pop culture show. So being in Los Angeles with the WNBA team there, this was the middle of the WNBA finals. And they mentioned, isn't the WNBA finals going on or something? They're like, it's women's basketball. Who cares? To that, I say, many people care. It is absolute BS that a group of white men on the radio chooses to open their mouths and begin trashing women's basketball. Because the fact of the matter is, they would not be allowed to ever be on the same court as that group of women, as Elena Delle Donne, or Emma Messman, or Candace Parker, or Nneka Nwumeke. They get absolutely destroyed by all of them. So, to the Woody Show in Los Angeles, yeah, people care about women's basketball. You know why? Because they would absolutely wipe the floor with any of you guys anytime you tried to step on the court with them. And with that, that really just wraps up the show for us.
Woo, it was hot. It was hot in here.
Woo. Tune in next week. This is The Future is Female. I'm Gabby Ducharme. That's Nicole Pinter. We'll see y'all next week.